Well, hello everybody, and I hope you can hear me. Please, somebody leave a comment making sure that the sound is working all right. Welcome to my living room turned around slightly. It is sort of festive AF today. I'm actually cuddled under this really cozy blanket because I'm cold, not feeling very well. So, how are we all doing today? I have had a really interesting week. You may have noticed that my stats have gone a little interesting this week. One of my videos sort of took off from like 6 months ago and kind of took the whole channel. So I just passed the 4,000 subscribers mark. And that's like 1,000 subscribers in a week. It is just unbelievable and kind of hard to process. So yeah, this week I have been just trying to deal with that and freaking out a little bit. And I know that seems kind of ridiculous, but just the numbers have scared me a little bit. I've been all about the numbers and the analytics, and now this week I've been scared by the numbers. And a lot of nice comments and some not so nice comments. But I'm really grateful that you like my content, and I'm just not very good at handling change. And I've been very anxious all week. So that was a very, very long intro to my week. Storm has joined us, as I hoped she would, by placing the little fluffy rug down there. So let's see if she actually moves, or if she is in fact a fake cat. Who's in with us tonight? We've got all the regulars and maybe some new people. We've already got a conflict. I want to know, Sarah or Sarah, which live stream you're watching, because like if it's the same niche, maybe we should schedule them better. Anyway, yes, the chats are getting big at the moment. We've got 26 people here, which is okay. Last time we had like 55 and it was really difficult. So I do have super chats open if you want to ask me a burning question that I will try my hardest to answer. That's the best way of guaranteeing that I'll actually see it. Helen really wants me to wave hi. I had a whole intro planned and now I'm being distracted yet again. But it's really nice to do live again. And it's nice to like have this sort of community, people coming back week after week. Well, not quite every week, but something like that. So I'm just gonna say hello to everybody who said hello to me, to Kendra, Bert, Franklin, Reese, Philip, Helen, Kendra again. Oh, it's the same people. Adele, Gary, Sarah. I really hope you don't mind. Every time I do this, I laugh at my own pronunciation of your name. So Abby, hello, everybody. And Leapin' Lima, which I like, who it's their first live stream here. So welcome. MJ, Adrina, Trish, Helen, Reese, Skandia, and yes, that's everybody. So hi. We are going to be talking about friendship and specifically how friendship looks when you're autistic. Obviously, it's a very broad topic, and I hope that we can all bring our own experiences to the table. Oh, the other thing I didn't mention is, isn't it light in here, huh? Because I've got some big old massive lights on me. It is winter in Northern Europe and there is no daylight in my house. So obviously it's nighttime now, but I have been saving up for some softbox lights. And so this beautiful ambient lighting that you can just about see in the reflection on the door there, which I should have moved before we started, but I will. Yes, You can see me now, which is lovely, I'm sure, for you. Friendship. So because autism is a condition that affects communication and sensory experience of the world, making friends is something that's incredibly hard for a lot of autistic people, and I think I would include myself in that. I mean, there's a reason why I'm sitting here on a Friday night under my blanket drinking tea with a large amount of people I don't know. Wait. And certainly in my adult life, I found it very hard to make friends beyond that kind of acquaintance level. And for those of you who don't know, I am British, but I moved to the Netherlands, and we moved 6 years ago. So I moved kind of like in my mid-20s. Yeah. And so obviously, like, moving to another country kind of disrupts all your friendship circles and stuff like that. And I speak the language enough to get by, but I don't speak it well enough to make friends in that language. So the question we might ask is, why is making friends so hard for autistic people? And this is probably something that is sort of bleedingly obvious to us. But when you actually think about what is it about our autism that gives it, what is giving us these barriers to making friends? And I think when you examine, I mean, I started looking at it kind of like an anthropologist. You start taking a step back, and then the whole concept just becomes weirder and weirder when you really look at it. But at its essence, friendship is largely about social norms, social conventions, which autistic people might not understand fully. They might not even notice them, or maybe we're just not interested in following them all the time. We also have a tendency to be kind of like the truth tellers of the group or of society, which I do think is a positive. But social bonding typically involves a level of white lies or flattery, social grooming or something, isn't it? Not only that, the society we live in, making friends, you can't do it so easily in the comfort of your own home or a controlled environment, sort of controlled from a sensory perspective. So if you want to make friends, especially as an adult, you have to go to a lot of loud or annoying or just plain intolerable places in order to try and then have these social exchanges and take part in this kind of flattery and to and fro, and it's exhausting, basically. But that's not to say that making friendship is completely superficial, but we have plenty of time to discuss all that later. So let me read some comments, if I can even find my way. I enabled timestamps on the chat, so I can actually see where I got to. It's amazing what you figure out sometimes. Philip says, everyone needs to embrace change, because if not, we get left behind. That's true. I think I do embrace change, but it's like when something happens to you, not because of anything that you did, can be a little bit scary. So Reese says, where do seagulls go at night? Does anyone know the answer to that? Right. My first live stream, love your Christmas tree, says Kendra. Well, thank you. It has Danish flags on it, in case you were wondering what the flags are. It's not like a nationalist thing, I promise, though. Well, maybe, I don't know. Philip says, too much light. Can you please use an orange light by any chance? Your face is a bit white. I will attempt. I can't do anything really right now because there is a limit to what YouTube does, but I will bear that in mind for next time. I'll try and use a warmer light or a softer light. Hello. Gary says, secondary school, it's hard to get new friends after changing school. And I agree with that. So friendship is sort of something that goes in phases. You certainly, where I grew up, you know, primary school and secondary school, university, you go to university, and then, you know, the real world. And I think for me, friendship has been hardest out in the real world. Because at school, without getting even onto the topic of bullying and exclusion and stuff like that, the nice thing about school, which can also be the worst thing about school, I guess, but is that you have repeated exposure to people. So if you tend to be someone that's not very good at getting to know someone quickly, you have maybe years to have repeated exposure to the person, and then people get to know you, and it's kind of like makes it easier, and you have a lot of shared experiences and stuff like that. And so I think I don't know, I guess psychologists have found that in order to maintain friendships, you need shared experiences and you need to see the person on a regular basis. And that's not to say that that's for every friendship, but certainly like for the basis of making friends. So school can work for that. I mean, I would say I was lucky at school because I went to a school with a lot of nerds. Like the kind of nerdy group was pretty big. Like I'm not saying that was my friendship group or anything, but you know, it wasn't like, I don't know, compared to I think maybe the average, it wasn't really like so much people trying to be cool. Which helped because even though I didn't feel like I had loads and loads of friends, I had people were friendly at least, and so I didn't stand out in that way. I think I went to school with possibly a lot of other neurodivergent people, but that's by the by. So it was really, university was kind of a big shock to me, and I have done another video on my experiences at university if you want to check that out at some point. And it was tough for me for a lot of reasons, but I did find it very hard to make friends because even though you sort of see people, you've kind of got people that you see regularly, you don't have that same structure as at school. So, and it's much bigger, so you can kind of like see people, but you never actually get to know them. And I think that depends on what kind of university you went to. Mine was mostly kind of big lectures and a few seminars, but didn't really give me the chance to get to know people that well. I used to have one very good friend from university. But emerging into the adult world, unless you have a job where you have a workplace and you have people who are very close-knit and it's a team and you're accepted into that, it's very hard to make friends. And this is not just autistic people. This is just what happens when you're an adult. The difference with autistic people is, certainly with me, is I find it takes a much longer time for me to get to know people. And I also find myself very easily excluded if I don't act quickly, if that makes sense. So, you know, like there's a group of people and everyone will suddenly be like a thing, and I'll find myself out of that, and then I can't break into a group. So I kind of retreat. And that might be my fault for retreating as well. So there are struggles that we have in kind of like breaking into a friendship group and relating to people, because obviously autistic people are not, they're not very common. They are a minority. And so depending on your upbringing or what kind of circles you move in, you may not meet a lot of other people like you. I think I did, even though I didn't know them as autistic or as neurodivergent. I think I kind of drawn to these people, but I certainly didn't think of that. I just kind of thought like I like other weird people. That was how I thought of it. So let me have a look. Yeah, so in terms of like breaking into a group, that was something that I never had any success with. And group friendships are very kind of I don't know what the word is for it, but it's this kind of like cultural thing, isn't it? Like squad goals. And I've never been able to do that without really, really high levels of masking. I can fit into a group, but I can't maintain it because I find it too hard to it's too hard to understand the dynamics between everybody. And I also find I kind of take on different roles depending on who I'm talking to. And so when you're in a group, all of a sudden you are like different people, and you don't know how to reconcile all these different people when everybody is there watching you and they're thinking, what's wrong with Sam today? So yeah, that was a little rambly interlude. Let's see if I can go back to the last chat. I don't know. The last chat. Right, 2020, yes. Okay, here we. Gary says, my old friends in junior school changed classes, so I had problems making new friends. Yeah, when I went to senior school, I had one person from junior school who came with me, or I came with her, or we went together, and she was my absolute childhood best friends. We are still actually friends, even though we don't see each other. I got a birthday card. We're that kind of friends. I actually always remember her birthday, which is amazing. But we were put in different groups, and without her, I felt very lost as a 13-year-old. And I basically felt like I was starting from scratch. And I think it's hard to do. We go through a lot of life changes, but human beings, we kind of evolve to be in much smaller tribal groups, I guess. And this whole idea of having to constantly make friends, I don't think is particularly natural for humans. But the life that we live, people move around a lot. People change schools. People just change it up. And so making friends is something that has to become a skill and has to become something that you do for everyone. And if you are not confident socially anyway, having to pursue a skill where you are just cringing at how awkward you are the whole time is really it's really difficult. My cat hasn't moved yet, has she? No. She actually bit me today. I don't know. She just kind of like attacked my arm. I don't know what is up with her, but I wasn't very happy. I may have screeched the house down. Philip says, Sam, do you ever find that when you just start talking to someone else, they simply just don't understand you? I get this most of the time, which has caused me to just give up. Yes, I do a lot of the times. And I think it's one of those things where now that I am diagnosed and I am trying to let down my mask and be more authentically myself rather than performing who I think people want me to be, if I'm being myself and somebody just doesn't understand me, I know already it's not worth pursuing. And there are plenty of people out there to be friends with. No, there aren't even 7 billion. There's way more than 7 billion people on the planet. Like, there's a lot of people to be friends with. So as I've got older, I have been a bit more like, do I meet this person? Did I say something weird and they didn't laugh? They just looked at me funny. Then it's not worth pursuing. And unfortunately, this is where it's sort of the ratio that's the problem here, because it's fine if it's 1 or 2 people, but when it's most people, then you have to start looking for alternatives, don't you? Well, alternatives, you just have to meet loads of people and play the odds. But I think there are ways that you can do that. So I'll get back to that actually a little bit later. Gary says, you're better than me talking live. Well, thank you. I did actually write a lot of notes for this one, and I actually read my notes out loud just before I came on, because I was feeling really not nervous, but just, I have another sore throat, believe it or not. So I've got a bit of a husky voice. I was trying to warm up a bit. So, but I'm a little bit practiced today. I don't know if you can tell. And Kendra says, I think for me, self-diagnosed, neurotypicals don't really understand me. I seem rude or highly honest, or as I say, I call it like I see it. I have friends from my childhood that I've known for 30 years. That's me too. I have my friend that I was talking about. I've known her since 1991. And we're still friends, and we maintain a good friendship even without seeing each other very much. But it seems like there are some friendships that are just easy, and there are some that you really have to work at. And you, at the end of the day, you're thinking, why am I having to work so hard to be friends with this person? Or you miss their cues that they really want to be your friend, and so you're trying to maintain a friendship because you think it's going somewhere, and then you think, oh, the fact that they never text me back, maybe that means that they don't want to see me, rather than like, oh, sorry, I've just been really busy. But the thing is, when I say, oh, I've just been really busy, it's because I have, or it's because I've been, like, sometimes that's something I say when I'm suffering with my mental health. But neurotypical people might say that and mean, I don't really want to be a friend. I don't know. Do we have any neurotypical people watching today? I would love to know if that is the secret code. But that's the thing, is that I feel like neurotypical people communicate in a secret code, and I don't understand it. And I would much prefer if somebody said to me, I'm not really interested in being friends. But apparently that's very hurtful to say to someone. So it's difficult. It is really difficult. And yeah, when I have had situations where I think I'm being honest, weirdly enough, that's sometimes when I get called being two-faced, especially in groups. If I'm honest to one person and then I'm not dishonest, but just don't say the exact same thing I said to her through tact or something, somehow that makes me two-faced. And I also made a video on that one, which is called Why Autistic Women Seem Two-Faced, which is all about masking and stuff like that. So where was I? Rachel Weiss. Oh, it's so nice to have a celebrity here. I assume you're not actually the real Rachel Weiss. I don't know how to say that. Weiss, I guess. Did you struggle talking to friends about your diagnosis of autism as an adult, especially friends who grew up with you? Well, friends who grew up with me, that one friend, and then friends I had in school, we've drifted apart from most of the friends that I had in school. Not that there was a falling out, but just our lives took different directions, and we all live in different countries and that sort of thing. But yeah, I feel like explaining autism to people who knew me when I was younger was a bit like saying, okay, but do you remember how I wouldn't eat any food apart from this, this, and this? Do you remember how I would do this and this? And so they were like, oh yeah. And I'm like, well, yeah, that is autism. That's how it came out in me. So it was almost a bit like I had to take everybody on that journey back in time with me. But I wouldn't say that I struggled talking to my friends. I find it hard to talk to people who are like, oh, well, it must be really mild autism. To which, what is the response to that? Like, no, it's not. But if you say that, then you just come across as incredibly petty. It's funny because whenever I say this to the healthcare professionals here and my autism mentor coach, and people are kind of horrified that I get that response. I'm like, but I get this a lot. People telling me how mild my autism is. And I think that's just because I guess it's like a way of giving a compliment, even though it's not really a compliment, but saying like, oh, you're doing really well, aren't you? You can talk really well. It's funny though, because people who watch my videos, especially this week, I've got a lot of comments like, you're not autistic, you're just pretending. Why are you attention seeking? I'm like, okay, it's a weird thing to attention seek about, but you know, I was going to say, people are not diagnosing. Oh yeah, they watch my videos and they are like, I don't see it. You look normal to me. And I'm like, do you realize how much I have to edit it to get it cut so well to make it look like I'm saying everything one after the other? Because let me tell you, I usually have to do the intro 3 times, 4 times. I will retake words or phrases where I don't have the intonation right. Sometimes I just can't say words correctly. And so getting my videos to that point of where I actually sound like I'm talking fluently is, and of course it's all scripted. Like I'm literally reading off a script and I still cannot read it without stuttering. I mean, I don't actually have I've never had a diagnosed stutter, but I have edited out a lot of stutters in my videos that's making me examine my own speech a little bit more. So it's just, it baffles me how people are so quick to like undiagnose you, or just, I don't know why anyone would say that. Like, if I wanted attention from the internet, I mean, first of all, putting videos online is like, isn't that the point, that you want people to watch them? It's like attention seeking behavior is kind of like, has a different connotation, but I don't want attention on me. I'm trying to, I don't know. I don't understand it. But anyway, that another rambly answer to that question. Philip says, "Are you the one married to James Bond?" Don't know. Maybe we do have a celebrity here. Adriana says, "School was a very hard time for me. I could never fit in no matter what I did." I actually find that I feel that way about adult life, and especially going to mum groups. I've met a couple of people. I have a couple of mum friends, but generally I go to mum groups and I'm like, I don't know what to say, and then I'll make an inappropriate joke and alienate everyone around me. So Jess says, hello Jess. You have a picture of a dog. I don't know if you are a Jess that I know or if you're not a Jess I know. It's a mystery. Helen says, do you think as an autistic adult one needs more in common with a friend than is average in order to develop a solid or long-term relationship? That's a really interesting question. I would say that the easiest way for me to develop a friendship or relationship with someone is if they are also neurodivergent. I tend to be actually drawn to people with ADHD because, well, my husband has ADHD, but we didn't know that at the time. But yeah, I think there is an energy about neurodivergent people with ADHD or autism that is slightly different, and kind of like a train of thought that means generally the autistic people I've met have very similar sense of humor, and you can just talk and you can click. So that's a great starting point, actually, just starting off on that level where you kind of like get each other. If you're talking about more in common, like having common interests, I guess it helps. But I think it's more important that you both understand where the other one is coming from. So I guess it requires more self-understanding and self-reflection. I mean, of course, what is average? I don't have any clue about the average friendship between two neurotypical people. It's like, you know, Jane Austen never wrote a scene with 2 men in it and no women. Like, I don't know what these people do when they're out with their friends. I see it on Instagram, you know, everyone with their cocktails, like, I don't know. It is a mystery to me. But I mean, for me, in order to develop a solid or long-term relationship, I think there has to be this level of, well, relationship or friendship. There has to be a level of trust and understanding. And I think that for me, that is like, it's a kind of benefit of the doubt situation. So I need that other person to know that I might say things that I really didn't mean to say, or I didn't mean to say it in that particular way. But in the grandest scheme of things, I mean well, and I'm extremely loyal. A lot of people, well, some friendships I've had in the past, they don't see that. They see if I'm saying something honestly and it's negative towards them, that's a criticism, and therefore I'm turning on them as a friend. And that's not the case at all. I can criticize, or I can see things about my friends that if I say out loud, which I don't always, but you know, if I were to say them out loud, they would sound like criticisms, but that doesn't have any reflection on my feelings or, you know, emotions towards them. That's to me an observation, or maybe like a statement of fact. But the problem is that not everybody sees it like that. So in order for me to have a true friendship or a connection, this person has to know that, like, at my core, I am a loyal person, unless you start, you know, acting like a massive douchebag. Or like, unless you have very problematic behavior and I feel the need to distance myself from you, or unless you're hurting me and I need to do that, you know, like wind down the relationship or the friendship in another way. But yeah, it's something that I don't know. I don't think loyalty in kind of neurotypical friendships is necessarily as strong as loyalty within autistic friendships. And I don't know why that would be. Maybe it's just part of being like straightforward and honest. And if there's a problem, you say it and it kind of gets cleared up, maybe. I'm not sure. So I hope that answered your question, Helen. Right. Kirby Tankbot. As a female with autism, I find it especially hard to make friends with other females. I often can't tell if they're being nice or not, and I feel more vulnerable being bullied rather than with men. I think that's certainly common from what I've heard. I don't really relate because I actually went to all-female education, which is not as bitchy as it sounds. It sounds very bitchy, but it wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't so bad. I found I was scared of boys, like, until the age of maybe, I'd like to say 18, but probably 21. But I know that this is very common, because I don't think that there is, I don't subscribe to this female male brain theory. I think it's mostly been debunked. But there is certainly an expectation of how you portray yourself and how you act within society. And I guess women have this reputation for being like more shallow and cliquey and, you know, fake maybe. And men are allowed to get away with being more blunt because social grooming isn't as important in that way. But I think it is. If you really like examine male friendships and female friendships, I think there's maybe more in common than we think. But that's maybe like more of a gender discussion than friendship. Franklin the Turtle says, for me, it's most difficult to move from casual friendship to something deeper or more intimate, like true friends. I agree. I can do small talk, but I have a hard time to really sorry. I'm drinking tea tonight. I'm not drinking wine. Maybe I should have been drinking wine. To really let new people know the real me. Yeah. And I think that's, I totally agree. For me, it's like, I also don't know how to do it. I don't know how to tell someone, like, I feel dating is more formalized. Like, you say, can I be your girlfriend, or will you be my boyfriend, or something? And it's kind of like a label. But when you have friends, you have sort of casual friendships. There is no formalizing that, apart from when you're 13 and you give each other like BFF necklaces, or 20 in my case. I don't know if Hannah is watching, but I hope so. What am I saying? Yeah, moving on to a deeper level of friendship. I find it really hard. And for me, I personally really like it when I meet someone and I click with them and we have an intense friendship, because I know where I stand with them. And I would much rather spend a very intense amount of time kind of socializing and getting to know someone. And then I feel much more comfortable in the friendship because, you know, like I was talking about having mum friends and things like that. It's great, but I would like to see them not necessarily more often all the time, but at least more often to really get a deeper bond and then know, like, are we really friends? Can I text you funny gifs? Like, are you going to get annoyed because your phone is binging at you like 6 in the morning or something? You know, like I feel like I need to have close friends that I can irritate. If that makes sense. That sounds like an ADHD thing, doesn't it? I don't know. My doctor told me, oh, it's probably not ADHD. And I'm like, well, okay, what do I do with that information? Don't know. So yeah, Franklin, Mr. Turtle, I totally agree. Rachel Weiss says, we do share the same name and actually look similar. So that's your real name. That's really cool. Right. Now it's just jumped down again. So I have no idea. Let me see if I can. Ooh, we've had some message retracteds. That sounds exciting. Right, we're on Franklin. Right, so Skander says that, yes, I spend the first while getting used to the environment. Just as I'm ready to make friends, people have already formed groups and friendships, and I'm too late. Yeah, and I think that is also a part of like understanding who you actually want to be friends with, and almost like trying to analyze the situation first and thinking like, okay, well, this person likes this. I don't know, I guess neurotypical people probably just have much more of an instinctive knack for this. So my cat moved. She's real and she's alive. Right, I'm going to read some of these chats because I've been talking for a while and I want to see what you guys have been saying. And then I hopefully won't get too bogged down with it. Gary says, do you feel like you wished you was in a supported school, smaller class, like 12 in a class? I actually went to private school, and so the classes were very small. And I think that is probably the reason why I didn't struggle as much as I would have. I think that was a huge, the class size alone, that aspect of my school was huge, because I still didn't talk in, I mean, our classes were like between 12 and 18. I mean, when I did German, there was not many of us, so it was like 6 or something. But I didn't talk. The bigger the group, the less and less I would talk. And even in a class of 12, it was very, very hard for me to say anything. So I think I probably would have benefited even more in very smaller groups, like 6 to 10 people in a classroom environment. But I was extremely lucky that I was able to be at the school, at the schools that I was from that perspective. Brianna, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Brianna. I love your Eva mug, yes. We've gone from the Eva on the wall to the Eva in the mug. Right, message retracted. This is exciting. Jane Ann says message retracted. This is also exciting. I assume this is like, I don't know what kind of retractions we've had. We have the sensor working upstairs, making sure that the conversation stays nice. So Dynamic Days says, central coherence theory helped me understand how being autistic in work segregated the person with autism. Have you heard of central coherence? No, I haven't actually. The problem is, I read these comments, I'm like, I haven't heard of that. I must immediately Google. I cannot Google because I am on a live stream. So Adrena says, I feel people just lack the ability to understand someone different from themselves. Yes, I think so. But I mean, it works both ways. As much as I don't understand neurotypical people very well, they don't understand me that well sometimes. But that's why I have a channel. So I can say, if you want to understand me, go to my YouTube channel. And you'll really, really understand me then. But I mean, actually, I do feel like members of my family have been watching it, and they understand me more because I'm probably just more open talking to a lens than talking to people in real life. I can understand that. It's very hard for me to open up, and it's extremely hard for me to be vulnerable because I have so much anxiety about, like, did I do the wrong thing? Did I say the wrong thing? How are they reacting? Oh no, they gave me a funny look. Does that mean they hate me? Or does that mean that they just didn't understand what I was saying? You know, and so it's really like, well, social anxiety, I guess. But I think social anxiety is an intrinsic part of autism because we lack that understanding. And when it's like somebody's talking a different language to you, like figuratively speaking, you know, it's almost like you freeze and you're like, okay, well, what do I do now? I don't understand what they're saying. And I get that because I get that doubly because I live in a country where I don't always understand what people are saying to me. I actually went to an autism meetup last night. It was my second one. And it was so hard concentrating on, it was a group, how many people were in the group? Like 5 or 6. I was having to concentrate on what people were saying. They all had slightly different accents and intonations. I was trying to translate what they were saying. There was a woman kind of like leading or moderating it. And then I'm trying to like kind of form connections to other people. And then they ask me to talk. And so I'm like, okay, well, I need to say something now. And it was just so impossibly hard for me. So do you know what? Talking to 66 people on the internet is like a piece of cake compared to that. Dynamic Days says, taking off the mask is hard. It's like years of conditioning, unlearning what we learned for so many years. Yeah, I think it is harder than people think because it's a reflex. It's like a reflex to be like, hello and welcome and yeah, la, la, la. And it's just like, actually me taking off the mask right now is being like, I have had a really bad week and I've been really anxious. But it's hard for me to say that to people, to say I'm not doing so well, because I feel like people will judge me or laugh at me or something like that. And so that's just one example, but every time you unmask a little bit, it's like there's the fear comes in. So it's all very well saying like, oh, be yourself. But when society says, well, not like that, then you know, you figure out how to be someone else, don't you? And masking is really hard in the realms of friendship, I think. Because it's like you're friends with someone, but you've created like almost another persona to be their friend. And so are they actually friends with you? Or are you friends with them? Or do you even like them? Or do you just like them because they like you, because you finally managed to convince them that you're a normal person? I don't know. It's hard. My moderator is off duty, so if you want to write abuse, now is the time. I'm just kidding. I can still block you. Sarah Boss says, hi, thanks. Hannah says, I found your channel just yesterday. Hello, newbie. And I identify with so much you say. It's like everything suddenly makes sense. Just wish the waiting list wasn't so long to get diagnosed. Yeah, it's tough. And I only had a 4-month wait. Well, I had 6 months where I was saying, do I get diagnosed or do I not? And then I decided to, and then I had like 4 months wait. And that's 4 months is still a really long time to wait. And people have waiting lists in certain countries of 3 years. There's just not enough funding for all the autistic adults to get diagnosed. There's not enough psychologists to do it. So, yeah, I guess maybe I should make a video on what to do while you're waiting to get diagnosed. That would be fun. Martina says, hi, greetings from Eindhoven. See, I would say something in Dutch, but I was a little bit, not traumatized, but like, I left the meeting yesterday after having spoken Dutch for like 2 hours, and I spent the whole car journey back just cringing at myself. You know, like saying things in Dutch and people looking at me like they don't understand what I'm saying. And they go, you can just say it in English. I'm like, okay, great. You can see my cat licking her bum now. This is gripping entertainment on a Friday night. But hello, Martina from Eindhoven. Sarah K says, I used to be myself where I knew people a lot, as in take me or leave me. I don't anymore. I guess masking has become easier. Now I'm afraid I might get lonely if nobody knows the true me. Yeah, I think it goes both ways. You can either be like masking as a child and then, or you can mask a lot when you're young and then gradually stop, or you can like not know how to mask and then gradually learn how to mask. That makes sense. And I was definitely, I figured out how to not be myself. And then it was when I had my child and was pretty much exhausted. I just couldn't seem to do it anymore. I just didn't have the energy. I didn't have the mental capacity to think. And I also stopped caring as much. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's different perspectives on masking. And masking definitely is easier, or at least it, you know, let's say my late 20s, I was masking and it was fine. I was being like the sociable, outgoing, extroverted person as much as I could. But the problem is you can keep that up maybe for a decade, maybe 2 decades. But at some point it's just going to get too much and we burn out. So what we really need to do is get to a point where it's safe for autistic people not to have to mask, or to be able to just, you know, peel it back piece by piece, tiny little pieces. Right, we are on. My tea is getting cold now. Who would have thought? I need to get a thermos, don't I, for these long live streams. It's very nice to see so many of you, by the way. Oh, I've just realized you can actually see my reflection and the funny position that I sit in when I do these. It's no wonder I get like cricks in my neck and stuff, is it? So Skandir says, classic scenario for me is a friend for a few years stopped replying to me as often as we used to. I know they're busy, but they're talking to mutual friends, so I'm left wondering what I've done. I kind of understand that. And I almost wish maybe it would be fun to have someone on my channel who's like one of these friends and just be like, why? Why did you stop replying to me? I mean, this is separate from ghosting, but just like these people, they gradually stop, like they lose interest and then they eventually just kind of like the friendship fades out. I'm sure it happens to all friendships, but it hurts, doesn't it? And sometimes it's nothing that we've done. I think just it's people being flaky and I don't know, people being not as loyal to us as we are to them. And that is kind of a painful thing to get used to. So Sarah's boss says, I don't understand when people trying to be honest but don't say what they mean. They say other things like hints. Yeah. You know, like, oh, it's getting really late. I kind of get that that means that they want to go, but when people say that, then they often carry on the conversation. And I'm like, okay, if you want to go, then just go. Like, tell me, I've got to go now. Don't be like, oh, it's getting late. Just like, tell me what you mean. But I don't know whether this is like, I would not be offended if somebody is like, sorry, but I really have to go. Because you can, honesty is not always just about harsh truths. It's on the plus side. It's also like, I really enjoyed talking to you, but I have to go now. You know, there is a way to make honesty work both ways. And I think also it's just, yeah, I don't know. This is kind of like a cultural difference, though. It's very cultural between countries. I mean, obviously here in the Netherlands, people tend to be more direct. And as a Brit, I actually find that hurtful. But as an autistic person, I guess it's helpful. But I still find myself second guessing and not knowing, like, if I've offended my neighbors or if I've offended somebody. I spend my whole life worrying if I've offended someone. So yeah, it's hard to make friends when you're constantly like worried about all that, isn't it? Trish says, does anyone else have issues with one-way friendships? I seem to always be the one who calls, visits, or emails. Yes, I do, definitely. And now that I'm older, I stopped worrying about that so much. I say now that I'm older, I'm so old. I stopped. Here she goes. She's now vying for your attention, this cat. But I think it's just like those kind of one-way friendships are the ones that I'm just not investing in anymore, you know. If they've said like, oh, I'm not really doing so well, I'll try and be like, okay, I want to be your friend, I want to support you and stuff. But when you get nothing back, it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to support you, but it's like, I don't know if you even like me anymore, so should I even be trying to support you? In this point, I have just realized, and it's super distracting me, that it looks like I have a giant cross on the top of my Christmas tree. I'm an atheist. It's not a cross. It's a star. It just looks looks like a big cross. Oh my gosh. Right, let's take some more chats. How are we doing for chats? Sarah says, with me, it's the other way around. I lose friendships because it seems too much effort to answer every single text, or I just forget about it. Yeah, so I think that's also like, it can be really overwhelming getting correspondence, especially by text or email or something like that, that requires you to kind of formulate things. I mean, there are even some autistic people that prefer talking on the phone for this reason. And especially, I think people with like a PDA profile will probably, if you are sending lots of texts, react by going like, and I mean, I've done that in friendships in the past when people send me a lot or make a lot of demands of me. I kind of just shut down. But I think it's like, I don't know, it's two types of autistic people. Ones who can answer. I don't know what I'm saying. I was trying to make up a joke on the fly, and it clearly did not work. Trish says, I feel so manipulative when I think I'll just wait to see if they contact me. They don't unless I can do them a favor. My circle is now very, very small. I don't think it's a bad thing to have a small circle, especially when you're autistic. I think it's probably better to have people that you really can count on, that you really can rely on, that you know are there for you. And I've certainly done that before, because I'm like, okay, well, why am I making all this effort? So are they going to contact me, or you know, are they ever going to contact me, or is it always me going to have to do it? So I don't think it's manipulative. I understand what you mean, that it can feel manipulative by like saying, okay, well, I'll see if they contact me, but it's not. It's just like, okay, it's a test, isn't it? It's a test to see what they do, and it's you know, you don't have to take any drastic action after it. But I don't think it's a bad thing to have a small circle, but on the other hand, it is important that we do have a circle. We do have friendships. And the problem is, when you have been hurt multiple times in your life, you've had friendships go wrong, you've been hurt by relationships or something like that, it becomes very hard to open yourself up to new friendships, because you just think, well, what is the point? It's much better if I stay at home with my cats. And a lot of the times it is better. But I think people don't necessarily realize, especially when you get to, you know, autistic elder age, which according to somebody on Twitter is like 35. So I'm almost an autistic elder. It's like you get to that point and like, it's so painful to try and do these things because you've just already been through so much. But we all need friends, don't we? I guess, even if they're internet friends. And that's actually something that I wanted to talk about, is like what we want out of friendship and the different ways that we kind of benefit, because we all have different ways of expressing that we care about someone, but we also might have like limitations on the amount of social time that we can spend before we need to recharge, or the types of social gatherings we can attend. So autistic people might have just different needs in terms of just the physical location of a friendship. Are you meeting up at each other's houses, or are you meeting up at a board game night or something like that? And so for me, I actually realize it's weird to say that I'm an extrovert, because the definition of an extrovert is like you get your energy from people. So I'm an extrovert that needs to recharge a lot more than other extroverts do. But I really like talking to people. And so my ideal situation would be like, I don't know, a commune where there's constantly people about, but I have my own private room that I can retreat to. And that would be nice, because then I can go and I can just be around people. And I think some people who know me or who've seen me in social situations might actually laugh at the idea. I've just called myself an extrovert, but I like talking to people. Even if I like WhatsApping people. I really need that constant that social stimulation the whole time. If I have to spend the whole day by myself, it's just like, it's not that I don't like my own company. I need some more stimulation like that. So, but it's difficult when you need that, and you also get sensory overload very easily. So talking about online friendships, I think that, first of all, I think online friendships are completely valid. And I think there's a lot of people that make very good friends online and maybe never even meet the person. But I personally, I find it much easier to interact with people over social media. I think I probably come across as way more confident than I do in real life. And I mean, I come across like this. This is not how I talk to people when I meet them for the first or second or third time. Like, I am much more shy in real life. I think anyone who knows me will agree with that. But for social media, and I guess YouTube kind of counts as social media, it's like, I don't know, it's just, it feels so much safer because you have time to think about what you're going to say or how you're going to respond to something. And I think you can also develop much deeper friendships because you're not focusing. If you meet someone in a coffee shop or something like that, you're not focusing on like, okay, well, that's making loads of noise and this. You can actually just get down to the nitty-gritty of, I don't know, experience transfer and information transfer. That is kind of like the core of my ideal friendship. It's just like, who are you deep inside? This is who I am deep inside. Let's transfer this information to each other, and then let's talk about things we're interested in. I don't know if that's a little bit of a glib way of putting it. My cat's enjoying that sheepskin rug now. So, right, let's find some more of these. Helen says, almost all my friendships are one way. I consider giving up all the time, but if I did, I'd have no friends. Yeah, that is the harsh truth sometimes, is that when you stop making effort, sometimes it doesn't leave you with anyone. But that is why I think that online friendship can be very rewarding. I personally think it can be rewarding. And especially online friendship with other autistic people. Right. Rick says, undiagnosing one seems a day's work for some people. Yes, it does seem to happen quite a lot. Kendra says, I'm working on myself too, like I'm okay with eye contact. Yeah, I mean, I made an autistic friend like in the last year or so, and we've become quite good friends, I think, and we very rarely make eye contact, and it's fine, and we're still like pretty good friends. I don't feel like we've lost anything through that. To be honest, when she's come around to my house and we sit kind of like next to each other and talk and don't look at each other, it's kind of a relief. So sometimes making eye contact is just unnecessary, maybe, to maintain friendship. Because I mean, when you think about it, what is the purpose of eye contact? It's to ascertain that the person is interested, paying attention. But if I'm in a conversation with you and I'm participating in the conversation with you, then clearly I'm interested in paying attention, regardless of what my eyes say. Of course, if you're monologuing and I'm like, I could be making eye contact and still not paying attention. So I don't know. What is the purpose of neurotypical eye contact? I would love to know. What else have we got here? An autistic friend can ring too much because of problem with theory of mind. Yeah, so it might be a theory of mind problem, although I don't know. Yeah, I don't know much about theory of mind and whether it's really as much of a deficit in autistic people as we are kind of led to believe. But I think it certainly can happen. We don't get what the other person might be feeling. I don't really see how there is a way to get that and actually be sure for anyone, but I guess autistic people really don't. We really don't get it. But I think that's the key. If you are neurotypical and watching this and you are friends with an autistic person, you really have to just be very straight with them and saying, like, you can't, please don't text me in this time because I'm waiting for a text from someone else and I'll get annoyed at you. Or, you know, I don't want to call you, I don't want to talk to you on the phone or something like this. And I just think it's so much better to be honest and upfront with us, because then we know where we stand. Not knowing where we stand with someone causes so much anxiety. And that's, I think, mainly my anxiety in friendships is I don't know if the person is angry at me or hates me or if they're okay. And most of the time they don't. But, you know, we've all had like incidents where something vaguely traumatic happens and it kind of like blindsides you and you think, well, what did I do? What just happened? So yeah, right. What comments are we on now? Gary says a neurotypical can mind read better to know when not to ring people. I don't know. I don't know about that. Maybe. I mean, the general rule is don't call me. So I don't know. I very rarely get phone calls. The only phone call that I've even got in the last, I don't know, 3 weeks is, well, I found out who it was because they rang me and didn't leave a message. Not that I would check my voicemail, but I mean, come on. But it turns out it was from my gym. They sent me an email being like, oh, we've tried to call you. I'm like, but why would you do that? Actually, the gym thing was kind of it's off topic a little bit from friendship, but basically I've been semi-avoiding my gym. It's also my schedule has changed around a bit, so I don't really have time to go during the week, and then like, I don't know, I have various commitments. Obviously, I have a lot of work to do for YouTube, and it's just like I've been finding it hard to find the time. I've also had joint pain and stuff, and then I said I replied to the email because they were like, well, we haven't seen you for a while, because they can tell because you boop in. And I said, like, to be honest, I have autism and it's just really loud. I didn't say you play shitty music, but I phrased it in a more tactful way, I think. You know, it's really loud and I find it really hard and stuff like that. And I thought, like, because I've been thinking about saying to them, is it worth saying anything to them? And I wrote this email and I just thought, like, I'm thinking about changing I'm thinking about quitting the membership because I don't know if this is really for me at all. And the email I got back was just like, I actually was crying after I received the email because I wasn't expecting the response that I got. And it was like, first of all, she really wanted me to talk about the pain with the trainer. And I'm like, well, it's nothing to do with going to the gym because as we've established, I don't, or I haven't been. But and then she was just like, in my other job, I work with autistic people. I can totally understand what you're saying. And even the music is too much for me. I would definitely say, like, try using headphones or something, but we really want to help you out. And it was just like, it was such a kind email. And I was like, I was actually tearing up because I just thought, well, I've been thinking, oh, there's no point. A gym is a gym. They're going to play music, right? But then I got this lovely response, and now I'm thinking, like, okay, maybe I can go to the gym and I can say, well, I need you to implement an autism hour where everybody just shuts up, because there's a big cafe in the middle as well, and people congregate in groups of people, large groups of people, like too large really to be going to the gym, but and they just talk very, very loudly, and it's not a very peaceful environment. So That was the story of the gym. So actually, it was such a nice email. I actually do think I'm going to go there and set up a meeting, and I'll be like, I am a very important YouTuber, and I will not make you any money, but it would be good for your profile. I don't know. I'll see what they say, and see if they would be willing to maybe have a few hours that are autism friendly hours at the gym. So that was another little monologue. You're watching a live stream, unless I get like a guest on. Actually, my next live stream will have a special guest. I'm going to do that on the 27th, the day after Boxing Day, or maybe the 26th. I'm not sure. Yeah, it will be kind of like a Christmas special, just chatting and making sure everybody has survived the holidays intact, because I know it can be kind of a difficult time of year. So yeah, I will have a little bit of a special guest next time, so you'll have to stay tuned to find out who that might be. You can probably guess, can't you? Anyway, let's get some more comments here. I feel like I'm doing pretty well with these comments. I've caught up. Anyway, Sarah says I'm okay with eye contact in a group. I just get stressed if I'm talking to one person. Well, yeah, I mean, in a group, not everybody's watching you the whole time, so it's like you can talk to this person. This person's talking. It's one person. Then you're like, okay, well, I am having a conversation with you right now, and you've said something. Now, do I look away now? I don't know. Really, my thing with eye contact is not so much that it's really painful. It's just like I'm overthinking it. And I don't know if I'm doing it right. And other people seem to make a lot of eye contact, and then I'm thinking, okay, well, I naturally will talk with my eyes over here, and then I'll look back at but then I realized that I don't know whether it looks natural enough. And so I'm spending so much of my energy thinking about how to make it look natural, and not enough of my energy on actually talking to or connecting with the person, which doesn't help when building friendships. So yeah, the eye contact thing it's kind of hard in that respect. But yeah, the easiest way is just make friends with other autistic people who don't care. Right. Rick says, most of my friends are diagnosed with different disorders. It must be that they don't chit chat that much. Yeah. I mean, actually, the friends that I do have, like, I don't think, no, I don't think I have a truly neurotypical friend among them. Certainly, the neurotypical friends that I have had in the past have had various issues with mental illness, which I think, even though that's not the same as neurodivergence, I think having struggled with mental illness makes you very much more sympathetic to autistic people or people with ADHD. Do you say ADHD people? ADHDers or something? I don't know what the correct way of saying it is. I always say people with ADHD, but I don't say people with autism. I don't know. But I think when you have struggled with mental illness, you become much more aware of how difficult it is to like keep up a face and kind of perform and struggle with this kind of inner life inside yourself. So I think that's kind of why I think anyone with sort of like mental differences gets on better with each other, because you understand where you're coming from, don't you? And I always find myself kind of like warming to people more after I've found out that they've struggled with depression or something like that. I don't know why. I feel more sympathetic towards them, or I just feel like maybe they're more human, or I don't know, they're more like me. I don't know. But not all of my friends are diagnosed, but I mean, well, I like to diagnose people. Not to their face, not even on this channel, but in my head for my own amusement, which I am allowed to do. Oluchi Ono says, I hope that's how I pronounce it. Thanks for making this channel. I really need this right now. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Skandir says, one struggle I have with neurotypical friends is that they see disagreement as just like, oh my gosh, yes. I'm happy disagreeing, but NTs seem to take it very personal. Yes, I totally agree. And for example, I can have a heated debate with somebody. In fact, this did happen. I had a heated debate with somebody's husband or something, and I was just like, you are talking bullshit about, I think it was about psychology or something. Like, I have a psychology degree. I know what I'm talking about. And months later, I got, you know, what's the idiom I'm looking for? Hauled over the coals. No, that's, you know, I basically got like held up and like, you acted like this to my husband. You shouted at him. And I'm like, I didn't shout at him. I just disagreed and raised my voice because I was having a heated debate and he was pissing me off. But like, yeah, disagreement I see as like something healthy and something that you meet someone, you discuss, and then you tear apart their ideas. Does not everybody do that? But I think the neurotypical approach is more about like keeping the peace in some ways, but it doesn't, it's not very peaceful for me. So person whose name I can't pronounce because I don't speak Russian says, don't worry, be happy. And that is one way of looking at it. Abby Normal says, message retracted. I really wonder what these people are saying. I hope it's something, I don't know. I'll have to ask. I'll have to ask the mod afterwards. Female NTs take a lot more as dislike than males. I don't really think there's that much of a difference though between men and women, because I feel like it's often overblown, but maybe that's just my own bias, feeling like a not particularly gendered person in the first place and being like, well, I'm the same as a man as a woman. I didn't know really. I don't know. I don't spend enough time with female neurotypicals and male neurotypicals, which is probably good for my mental health. Right. Phil says that some of us, I don't know why you're saying Phil says, is this like another Phil, or is this like talking about yourself in the third person? Please help. Some of us are left brain, right brain. Please bear this in mind. I don't believe in left brain, right brain theory. We're going to have a disagreement about this, but we'll still be friends at the end of it. Helen says, I find that I'm always, it's skipped. It's skipped. I am so behind on these messages. I'm gonna have to scroll through some of these, unless you're sending me super chats. I'm not gonna be able to read them all out. I'm sorry. Right. What was I on? 20, 40 something. I don't know. Jeff says Eve mug. Yes. Right. Let's have a look. Please occupy yourselves while I find some. Pick out the best one. What's your cat's name? Cat's name is Storm. Right. Oh, Jane Ann sent me a super chat. That's very kind of you. Is it easier not to have friends? Is that healthy? I've been going, since I had my child, I've been going through a kind of hermit phase. And no, not since I had my child. Let's not blame it on him. Since I got my autism diagnosis, which was like January this year. Is it easier to not to have friends? It has been easier, and it's actually been nice in a way, but I don't think it's healthy long term, if that makes sense. It's easier because if you don't have friends, you're not constantly maintaining them and feeling this ongoing sense of anxiety, which is why I feel like this year I've retreated a bit into myself, and I've spent a lot of time at home, and I've obviously been doing YouTube videos. And it has been easier not to have friends. And it's almost like I'm getting a bit out of practice at being a social person. I don't think it's healthy for me long term, and certainly something that I want to do in 2020 is just not be more social, because that's something like I feel like I should do. But fulfill my own social needs, if that makes sense. Because I do have social needs. As I mentioned before, I consider myself more of an extrovert than an introvert. I like chatting to people. this is actually perfect because I get to chat to loads of people and I get loads and loads of messages, but there's also no social obligations involved. But yeah, to be honest though, not having friends or not having a lot of friends, having a very small circle could be healthy for you. Depending on your situation. If you are very introverted and you really enjoy spending time with your animals and crafting, that's a fulfilling and valid life there. Society tells us that we need to be like, oh, so popular and all these things, but why if it doesn't fulfill a purpose for us? And it's like we have to do the things that serve us. So thank you, Jane Ann, for asking that question and for the super chat. It's way easier to see when it's highlighted, isn't it? Right, let's have a look at Andrea Levine. Hello from Mountaintop in New Mexico. Awesome advice. And thank you, Andrea. I've just recognized your name from the Ko-fis. So thank you so much for the Ko-fis as well. That's really, really kind of you. And I'm glad that you made it to my chat. Bree says, I'm blessed, stressed with little to no friends. What does blessed, stressed mean? Maybe it was a typo, I don't know. I get lonely sometimes, but then after I go out in public, I think, nah, I'm good. Yeah, I have that feeling a lot as well. Less not blessed. Right? I'm less stressed. Less stressed is what she meant. Not blessed, stressed. Right, Hannah is saying, did anyone think I'm the better friend? Or you didn't get the loyalty that you give back? That's like what we were talking about before, having an imbalance of friendship. And I do find that. I would love for somebody to be like aggressively pursuing my friendship. No, actually, don't say that. I'll end up with a stalker or something about. But you know, like I would love for my friends to ask me more places, even if I don't want to go, just to make me feel more included in the friendship, I suppose. But I don't know. It's a work in progress. First of all, I have to work on myself, and that's not in terms of improving myself, but right now it's just in terms of like, I've been focusing on managing my own life and getting myself organized, and so to a point where I'm not so stressed. So when I go out, I'm not just panicking about life. God, I'm really talking a lot and quite fast today. I starting to feel this sore throat. Anyway, where are we now? We're in 2056 and it is now 21:32, which means that I have many, many comments to get through. So I'm going to scroll through some of these ones. Andrea says, you live isolated to tolerate sensory issues. Huh, that's interesting. Do you live completely by yourself? I wonder. Philip says, Sam, are you this coherent and fluent in person other than talking to a camera lens? If I'm talking to someone that I really click with, yes. I very much click with the camera. If I'm talking to, but I mean, it's great. I get to talk about myself. I can ramble on whatever topic I choose. I can completely steer the conversation. I can write notes beforehand. So yes and no. Mostly no. But if I really do have a click with someone, or if I have a close friendship with someone, then this is kind of how I talk with them. Excuse me. Gary says, do you worry now with copper? I think you mean about the child regulations on YouTube. My content is not for children. I wish I could swear more in it, but then it's not for advertisers and you can't make any money off your videos. So you gotta have that fine line between making it not for children, but it's not, my content is not aimed at children anyway, so you know, I'm not too worried about it. It's not even really aimed at teenagers, it's aimed squarely at adults. So we're talking about central coherence again. It's based on others. Neurotypicals work together based on social rules, whereas the person with autism works from a moral rules, that is really hard to say, moral rules basis. This causes a is this like a Dr. Seuss book or something? This causes a mismatch and potential bullying. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so yeah, what the neurotypical person is valuing is the social rules that you're following, and what we're valuing is like moral rules. So that would be based on you know, like being honest and integrity and loyalty and like, you know, the morality side of it. And that makes a lot of sense to me, actually. Yeah, I will have to look that one up. Central coherence. I'll look it up later. Excuse me. Right. So I've still got like 40 minutes of chat messages to go through. I'm glad you're all having fun. Somebody's had their message scanned. I don't know whether you guys are retracting your message or whether they're getting modded. I'm not sure. Helen says, of all the people I've considered to be my best friend over time, I find that I'm never their best friend. I might be their close friend, but I'm always the least important one. Yeah, I certainly have had that feeling in my life, and it's hard to come to terms with. I mean, I had someone who called me, who was referring to me as her best friend, and then 4 months later she ghosted me, and I haven't heard from her in 3 years. Good job. So yeah, that was really fun. But it was a part of that process of like wondering what the hell just happened that sort of kind of led me to my autism diagnosis. So that's me with this really big silver lining, but it was really painful at the time. And still is, actually. I'm not gonna lie. So we're talking back to the different sets of rules, social and moral rules. The more you have misunderstandings, the divide gets greater. It does make sense, Dynamic Days. I'm sorry that you have head pain. Everybody, please send Dynamic Days sympathy. Jordan says, wait, am I not the only person who finds chairs difficult? No. These are actually super comfy chairs. They're squishy, but I actually sit a lot of the times like this, if you can see it, with my knee up or like squished in a ball or across or sprawled. I don't know. Chairs, just sitting on chairs normally is very confusing. Even sofas I find hard. Oh dear. Jane Ann says, oh, this is interesting. Is it difficult to make and maintain couple friends? Yes. My husband is ADHD, and I just think the combination of us, it's I don't know. There are so many factors that we need in order to have couple friends that we actually get on with, and we also have to like them. I mean, I'm sure we could find couple friends that we don't get on with that well, but it's like the connection has to be there, and I think it's hard for anyone. My hair is just getting like bigger and bigger the more I'm playing with them. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to have to call it a day very, very soon, but let me just try and find some more chats and stuff. Skander says, you kind of like your mask, and I feel like I found a way to put my social pants on while still being me. Yes, I actually do understand that, but I think it's like, you know, it's like you become your professional self if you're in a certain job or something. So it's kind of like that, but it's also like you have to be able to take it off, and it's not knowing who you are when you do take it off that's where it causes, I would say, you know, mental health problems with me, because then it's like you have no identity. Gary asks me to sing a Christmas carol. I can't sing it tonight, but maybe in a couple of weeks I'll sing it. I'll have to make sure it's not like copyrighted or something. Let's see. Run. Sarah says, do you have any autistic friends? What are those friendships like? Easier and more straightforward. But they're not autistic friends, really. I mean, I do have someone who lives in The Hague, but it's that's quite a long way from where I am, so it's not like you can see them every day. I would love to have more autistic friends that I would see on a regular basis, but obviously there's a smaller pool of people, like, because with the language barrier as well, so it's harder. Tabster says hi. Hello. What role do you think alcohol plays for autistic people at social gatherings? An important one. For me, alcohol helps me from a sensory perspective. it was the only way that I was able to deal with like going out to bars and clubs and things, which I don't do anymore, but it numbs the sensory stuff. And then it also numbs the voice inside. It numbs or it quiets the internal monologue. And it just like, I guess, I suppose it might give a little bit of a dopamine hit. So it just like perks me up and puts me in a better mood and stuff like that. And it was like, I definitely had like I wouldn't say I had like a drinking problem, but it was just like I was drinking for very wrong reasons, especially at university where everyone was drinking. Pretty much everyone had a drinking problem, if we're honest. But I think it's just, yeah, it helps in all these different ways. So I suspect it's easier for autistic people to become dependent on alcohol. I don't know any stats about that, but I would I would imagine that's it. Yeah, my voice is starting to go now. So this username is click here for a free potato. That's nice. Agree on the online friends. It's not easy to make online friends, no. Kendra says, how do you do videos and be a YouTuber with your autism? Is it difficult? I actually think it's the perfect thing for me because I don't have to see anyone. I don't have to do anything. It is entirely my own project that I do. And then like, it's a bit scary, or it certainly was when I first started, really intimidating putting things out on the internet. But then when I started, it was like, well, no one cares. So I did a few videos that were not related to autism and I put them out, and it was like, okay, I don't need to share them on my Facebook. I can just get used to putting them out. And it gets easier with practice. So I think the difficulty I had this week was from comments. And they weren't always, they weren't just trolling comments. They were just like not very nice ones. And it wasn't like they were calling me any horrible names or anything like that. It's just people being not very nice to someone. And that was the reason why I spent so many years wanting to be on YouTube and not doing it. But I think I need to accept that I'm a very sensitive person, and that, maybe going forward as my channel grows, I won't be looking at the comments, or like I'll get my husband to do the comments and then he can moderate them, and like I don't have to read all the comments, because I'm critical enough about myself. I don't need other people piling it on. Like, I really don't. I have enough self-reflection to know if I'm doing something wrong. I don't need other people to tell me how awful I am. So actually I find it easier to do things like YouTube and have it as my own project than dealing with any other people in like a workplace environment. So I hope that answered that question. It was an interesting question, actually. Okay, I'm catching up to the chat a little bit. The person I considered to be my best friend for the past decade was using me for their own benefit. They would borrow money, never pay me back. When you began to struggle financially, invitations dried up. Yeah, that was the best friend that I was talking about. She lived with us for 4 months, and then the day she moved out was the last day I saw her. It was like we were no longer convenient, and that was it. So, but she wasn't neurotypical. But that's a different story. But I'm not the first autistic person that I've spoken to that has had these sort of things happen. People using us, especially using us for financial means, because I think autistic people are very generous and open. And we'll give things. We won't expect anything in return, but we'll give them because we want to give them. And if somebody realizes that, then it's easy for them to manipulate us. So, I mean, that's why it's even, I think, part of diagnostic criteria for autism. Like, they can be easily manipulated, and that's kind of like what they mean, because we think the best of people until they show us that they're not worth it. So yeah, it's quite common for autistic people to be taken advantage of in friendships, especially. Let's see. what timestamp did I get on? Right. We've been on for an hour and a half already. Hope you guys are having fun. There's still 69 of you. It's amazing. Alan said Bert says raked over the coals. Alan says hauled over the coals. Yeah. I think maybe one's an Americanism, one's the not. But yes, that's what I was trying to say. Denise loves the cat. You hear that, Stormy? You are loved by the internet. I found a new YouTube channel, well, not new, but like new to me, called Kittysaurus, and it is amazing. You guys need to check it out. It's like artfully edited cat videos, but it's so funny. It's good for cheering you up. Right, let's see how. Oh, Abby's talking about her retracted comments. She only retracted because it seemed out of place. I'm new at this. First live stream, anything ever. Sorry, Sam, I'm really enjoying this. You don't need to apologize. You don't need to retract your comments. I think you can just talk about anything you want in the chat, and I will ignore it if I choose. Or Gary's talking about order, a sense that autistic people can see autism in other people. I have developed my autistic radar quite well over the last year or so, to the point where it freaks people out, because I think I see it in them, and even if I don't say anything, I think they can see me looking directly at them, figuratively, not literally. I'm not. Alan says, trying to follow the chat threads is insane. Yes, it's very difficult following this chat, so I hope I'm doing an okay job tonight. Helen says, you've got to go. All right, I am like 20 minutes late to that goodbye, so sorry. Sorry about that. All right, let me scroll, see if I'm catching up. I keep looking over here because it's the clocks, because I'm trying to compare the clock, but I don't know why I don't just look down here. People are retracting their own messages because they're off topic. You guys are actually the sweetest people ever. I feel like no other place on the internet is anyone this nice. Zinedra, I think, I don't know how to pronounce that. Zinedra. My mum and aunt and uncle used to yell at me for always sitting on the floor as a child and teen and young adult. I was very much a floor sitter. I would like lie on my front and, you know, on my elbows, but I was always in funny positions. And I did gymnastics, so I was always rolling around on the floor anyway. Right, we're talking about, oh, somebody highlighted my name. Bex Ed. Alcohol made me cope with social interaction from my teens all through uni. Going through the diagnostic process, I have to separate social interactions with alcohol versus without. That's interesting, actually. Yeah, I've never thought about that. Like, I have found it easier to make friends when we've been in situations where we've been drinking. I think I'm probably more fun. That's depressing to say, but like, I also get really tired very quickly, and so it doesn't wear down as much. This is like out of control now. I'm literally turning into a lion as we speak. But it doesn't wear you down so much to talk to people, because you're just so busy going, what did you say? Screaming, and I don't know, in a noisy bar. Yeah, maybe I should do a video on alcohol as well. Bex carries on saying, great content, just found you yesterday and think we have many similarities. I get that a lot, actually. I don't mean to diminish your connection, but I do get a lot of messages saying like, are you me? That was the latest comment that I had, and I replied, yes I am. BPD diagnosed. I assume I never know if BPD is bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder, but major doubts from myself and from psychiatrist and therapist now. Yeah, so BPD was one of the things that I kind of self-diagnosed myself with when I was a psychology student, and now that's something that I know is not the case. And I know a lot of my symptoms there were also me reacting to being on the pill and all of that, which I know now. I have a collection of diagnoses to explain everything, but it's hard to like pick through everything when you're getting diagnosed and saying, well, is it this? Because at the end of the day, psychological diagnoses are made on behavioral criteria, and nobody's really doing a brain scan or a blood test for mental conditions or mental disorders. So yeah, it's really hard unless you find someone who knows what they're doing, which you would like to think that all psychologists do, but it's not the case. Right, Trish says, after partners work Christmas functions, so I need to go have an anxiety attack and dig out my mask. Thanks for another live stream. I hope you don't have an anxiety attack. I hope you have a nice time. Is that possible? Probably not. Oh, it looks like we've had some cool spam that's been mod deleted. Tepster says the lion hair is awesome. Thank you. I just washed it, so it's super fluffy, like a kitty. But I don't have to deal with having a long-haired cat. It's just me. Oh, this person's just been banned. That's nice, isn't it? I didn't even see what they said. Didn't even see what they said. I finally caught up to the end of the chat. What can I do about guy friends not being safe? Should I only look for female friends from now on? Maybe I'm naive to hope to find guys to be friends with. I don't know whether you're a guy or a girl. I don't know whether that makes a difference. I think I may have missed some things. I don't know if you're still there. Can you just clarify what you mean by that now that I finally caught up to the end of the chat? Maybe I'm too naive to hope to find guys to be friends with. I think if you're a woman, it's not naive to find guys to be friends with, but it's hard because a lot of men don't want to be friends with women, really. But if you're a man, I don't really know. I don't understand the intricacies of male friendships. So, oh, okay. So you're a woman. Yes, I already look for gay guy friends, but it seems like they're only interested and obsessed with dating men, not so much interested in being friends with women. Well, maybe find gay guy friends who are in a relationship or married, because then they become more like a, you know, I want to say normal person. That's like rather offensive, isn't it? Like, I'm married, so I'm normal. That's like, no. But, you know, when you're single, especially like in your 20s or 30s or something, like single people go out to meet people a lot of the time. They go out to date. Whereas once you're in a sort of established, secure relationship, you can just be friends. You can have, I don't know, board game nights. I've mentioned board games a bit this one. Maybe I want to break out the board games. It is that time of year, I think. Anyway, so I cannot believe that there are still 60 of you out there. I hope you have had a I hope you had a nice time this evening. I have had a nice time. My throat is really hurting now. And it's approaching 10 o'clock, so you know what that means? It's bedtime for Sam. So what was I going to say? I've got another video next week, and then I'll have like a Christmas live where I may sing a song. Who knows? But it'll be copyright free. So what am I saying? Yes, thank you and good night kind of thing. I hope that you all have a good weekend and that you all take a step to uncovering your mask and to have the courage to be vulnerable with your friends and tell them how you feel and all of that. So take care, everybody, and take care of each other. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye. End stream.